All right, I need to make something. Hey everybody, it's me and Buster Green. Sorry I haven't made a video in a minute. I've been working on a handful of videos I just couldn't finish. So I decided, screw it, I'm stuck, I need to move on. And then I've been distracted by the thrills of spring break and the existential quagmire of do I want an Atari 2600 or not? How else will I ever experience a video game adaptation of E.T. or the original A-Team? Anyway, something happened this weekend and I think it's worth talking about. That Kakegurui, the insane gambling anime with that like horny lady, is getting an insane Netflix adaptation called Bet, B-E-T, which is totally not to be confused with Black Entertainment Television, which is something I need to talk about first because I talked to a lot of people who actually did confuse this with Black Entertainment Television. And that is kind of a hilarious mess, so I need to explain that to you guys. Since I started running this YouTube channel, one thing that's been really interesting for me is I often find fragments of news stories. In some ways, you could even say they're fragments of the very future itself. However, the problem is that there's something of a telephone game that happens online where some guy will get a scoop, some idiot will leak the scoop, and over time, little bits of information will fall off the scoop until the information gets down to me, and it gets down to me wrong. So I've been aware about the show coming slowly and menacingly for a year, but until the trailer dropped the other day, the show I was expecting was 100% different from the show we actually got. Now, the case here is I heard this wrong and I got the wrong news, and I'm going to sound completely insane right now, but here's what happened. So the news I'm reacting to is the news that Kakegurui is getting a second live-action adaptation set in America called BET. Except through that telephone of corruption, we lost a word, and we lost the word called, and then the message that escaped the studio and went to me was, Kakegurui is getting a second live-action adaptation set in America. Redacted. BET. So, with this word missing, I had assumed the missing word was either on or for, and so therefore the message that I ended up receiving was, Kakegurui is getting a second live-action adaptation for America to air on BET. Black Entertainment Television, adapting an anime, pure insanity. But then I thought about my logical self. I sat there for a second. I was like, well, wait a sec. BET is broke. They don't make anything anymore. Paramount Plus basically absorbed them and silenced them, and whatever is left of them is just scraps that Tyler Perry is actively trying to buy up and destroy. But still, the idea of an all-black Kakegurui, or maybe a mostly black Kakegurui, it honestly seems like it could work. Like, I've heard black people enjoy gambling. Sinners is the #1 movie at the box office this week. That in itself is a completely all-black vampire movie. And black creators keep trying to either claim entire anime fandoms for themselves or otherwise make their own anime. So, you know, what if we let them try it? What if we let them adapt one? It can't be any worse than an all-white version of Dragon Ball. Now, that being said, I had enough skepticism that BET was in no way adapting Kakegurui, so I sat on that news story, I put it on my shelf, and I just stored it away, and I thought, well, if they're actually making it, one day I'll see the trailer and I can react to that. Unfortunately, that day came around today, and unfortunately, while the trailer did come out, the show is not in any way connected to Black Entertainment Television. No, Netflix is making an adaptation of Kakegurui called Bet. It's totally a weird Canadian adaptation of Kakegurui with that horrible Netflix original charm that everyone hates. And I don't know about you guys, but the more I look at this, the worse it looks. Now, there's a small chance it surprises me, but I feel like we've done the Netflix original movie Tango enough times to have zero expectations here and probably be fully rewarded on that. So in this video, I'll mostly be going like, damn, I really, really want to see that black version of this. But anyway, at the same time, making the usual, oh God, oh God, oh God, make it stop observations to the actual trailer. But let's rewind for a second and let's go back to the original show that started this whole mess, started this whole franchise, Kakegurui the Compulsive Gambler, and see why the hell we even got 3 remakes of this godforsaken show in the first place. Hit it. So yeah, Kakegurui, a little show about a horny, thick thigh queen that became a franchise overnight when the cheap-ass producers realized you could make a hell of a lot of it very fast and efficiently. And once again, thinking about the American remake, what the hell, you guys? What is wrong with you? Are you even thinking about Google search engine optimization? Why don't you just call it Compulsive Gambler? Ugh, the people running Netflix are absolute fools. So Kakegurui started as a manga in 2014, published by Square Enix, the video game company. They publish manga too every once in a while, but the story really took off and it really got popular when Studio Mappa adapted it into an anime that first aired on Netflix in 2017. The story presented was an incredibly straightforward story of an abusive, borderline anachronistic high school, teetering on the edge of insanity where everyone was either trying to kill or seduce each other. And the only thing maintaining order in this school was a practice of settling all disputes and social hierarchies with life and death gambling games. I liked it a lot. It felt like it was a throwback to what I really liked about the original Yu-Gi-Oh! Season 0, where they were gambling with their lives. And the main character, Yumiko Jabami, wow, oh wow, what a woman. I think this was the first time, or at least the first time in a while, that I've seen a popular anime where the main character was a female pervert on the constant edge of explosive madness. Really, that ended up being the secret sauce in this one, so to speak. By the way, the show also had this weird male narrator self-insert protagonist character who just completely disappeared and melted in the background as the show became literally all about Yumiko just being an absolute edgelord. I guess this character is still around later, but the show really minimizes his role and just really brings him out for exposition. By the way, I should mention that Kakegurui minorly inspired me on a very low level when I was working on Meme Busters Episode 1. Studying the way the cards moved in the opening to Kakegurui Season 2 is how I eventually perfected that very nice falling ice shards in the bird F attack. I also studied a few cards from Kakegurui Twin as well, mostly just because I was watching it while I was working on my show. Watch Meme Busters, by the way. I made it. Anyway, yeah, Kakegurui exploded in popularity because Yumiko was just so watchable. Like, we immediately got a low-stakes, boring prequel series called Kakegurui Twin about how the blonde girl lost all her money before the first episode, followed up by Kakegurui Season 2. But anyway, then what we really need to talk about in this video is all the weird live-action remakes, because producers immediately noted that the show was extremely simple to make because it just consisted of two actors in a small table room playing tabletop games, playing Go Fish, and all you really need to do to remake that in live action is to pay two actors and buy a 99-cent pack of playing cards. So immediately we got a Japanese live action remake, which I wasn't really on board with. Like, to be real with you guys, Japan has a bad problem of oversaturating popular anime sometimes. Like, if an anime and a manga is all like popping off at the same time, they'll immediately move it to a live action movie. And I feel like that rarely works. I feel like in situations like that, the live action movie and the anime are basically competing with each other for the same fan base. Like, when it comes down to that, I'll usually favor the anime for being closer to the manga, but there have been rare exceptions where the live action movie ultimately is the better product. Like, for example, Gantz. I love the first live action Gantz. I think it stands amazingly well as a standalone movie. But then the anime and the second movie failed to adequately wrap up the story well, and that's like just a problem with Gantz. But anyway, in the case of Gantz, the movie came out almost a decade after the anime, so people were really craving a new Gantz product. And I think also the Gantz movie turned out so good because it had a better understanding of where the story was going compared to the anime that ran simultaneously with the manga. What annoys me is when an anime and a live action movie come out in the same year over the same topic, sometimes even like within a few months of each other, then I feel like they're literally competing with each other. And Kakegurui had that problem. So anyway, Kakegurui was such like a big anime for 2017 that the live action version was rushed into production, and I feel like the live action version came out before even the second season of the anime did. Now, strangely, what's really funny is now that I'm like looking into it today, they made almost as much live action Kakegurui as they made of the anime, if not a little bit more. Because check it out, I did the math, and it's freakishly similar actually. The anime had 2 seasons with 12 episodes each, 24 total episodes, but then we had Kakegurui Twin, which added another 6 episodes, so the anime has 30 total half-hour episodes. Now, the live action version did similar events and it has a similar number of episodes, but it spreads them out differently. So in live action, season 1 is 8 episodes, followed by season 2 only being 5 episodes. But then for some reason, live action Kakegurui Twin is another 8 episodes, which rebalances it out. So then we've got an even Blackjack 21 of episodes, and that seems like maybe that number was picked on purpose, except then there were also 2 live action Kakegurui theatrical movies, which both run about 2 hours each. And if you break those back down into 4 half-hour episodes, then we're at 30 episodes of anime versus 29 episodes of live action. So I don't know why, but the live action crew worked their ass off to make a freakish amount of content to just try and tie themselves to the anime team. So good job on that. Anyway, despite all that, I just couldn't get into the live action version because Minami Hamabe just doesn't resemble Yumiko Jabami in my mind. Nor does she effectively nail Yumiko Jabami's quality of being a weirdly inappropriate sexual tyrannosaurus of a woman. Like, I don't know, I only skimmed a couple of episodes of the live action. It has that cliche Japanese soap opera vibe to it where everything looks cheap and the lighting looks wrong, without getting into the very specific sexual horror and tension that the anime managed to constantly achieve. So it's interesting because even Japan couldn't quite nail this one in live action. If I had to put a finger on what seems to be wrong about the live action Japanese version, it feels like the live action team were just a bit intimidated to reach for that level of unspoken depravity that anime and manga Yumiko hits on a constant basis. Like flipping ahead to the last movie just to see from start to finish where they ended up, it looks like they somehow got better, at least in the makeup department. Like, okay, I watched the first episode of the live action and Yumiko didn't really look like Yumiko, but then by the end of it, it looks like they got her makeup better. It looks like she started to look more like Yumiko over the years. It looks like she darkened her hair and she lightened her skin. But even then, I don't see them nailing Yumiko's wild reacts, which is kind of the main thing that makes the anime so good. It's critical to making it all work. It seems like she's just this nice, normal girl who's good at gambling and she's looking for a nice man to settle down with and start a family with. So that brings us full circle to the trailer for the US version, which is a whole different pile of cards, as they would say. So once again, I'm immediately let down. It's not the black version I was expecting. It's not BET's Kakegurui. It's just a bad US, technically Canadian adaptation of Kakegurui called Bet. No relation to Bet the Channel. So yeah, there's so many things bothering me about this one. From the start of the trailer, we got a mysterious college place in the woods that looks vaguely like the Xavier School for Mutants. Yumiko was played by Miku Martineau, a very Japanese-Canadian actress whose only previous acting appearance was portraying young Georgiou in the terrible Star Trek 31 movie. Wow, she grew up very fast in a year. Anyway, I'm not sure what to make of this. It looks borderline self-aware. She's very pornoing it up. My God, Yumiko Jabami is hard to nail in live action. I don't know why, but something about her performance in this trailer, it really reminds me of Adam West's Batman. She's like doing it so literally that it's absurd, but I wonder, is it too literal at that point? Like, okay, I'm going to say I at least approve of Yumiko being a hot Japanese girl. That is the only thing I can get on board with, because I think like this actress looks more like Yumiko than the Japanese actress even did. So yeah, Yumiko aside, the side characters are butchered in this adaptation. Is that Boy George? Anyway, also, they show at multiple points in the trailer Yumiko having literal fire CG'd onto her eyes. They do it like 3 times. That does not seem cool at all. It reminds me of like the way like bad Korean live action TV would like overlay cell phone emojis on people to embarrass them. Then we get to this big scene, which is like the climax of the trailer, where Yumiko just screams like an idiot. I don't know how to feel about this. On the one hand, it's technically accurate to the anime, but once again, it's hitting that weird Adam West quality again. What am I trying to say about this? Am I trying to say it's campy? Is it maybe too campy? Do you guys think it's campy? It kind of seems campy to me. Anyway, the more I see of this, the worse it looks. I'm cautiously willing to at least forgive Miku Martineau, who at least looks like Yumiko to me. I actually think she looks more like Yumiko than Minami Hamabe did, but every single reveal of the side characters just looks worse and worse to me. Like, look at this. Look at this. What the hell, you guys? What the hell? Now, don't get me wrong. I hated a majority of these characters in the original anime. Like, all these characters are just disturbed psychopath killers who deserve to be punished and like hated. Like they're like characters you're supposed to hate. But at the end of the day, the only thing positive going for them was they were hot. And now they're just like straight up cavemen. Actually, you know what? That's kind of funny. It reminds me of the American Darkstalkers adaptation. Anyway, Bet is going to be dropped in its entirety on May 15th in a classic Netflix binge chunk. I'm super not having high hopes for this one. I would be surprised if it does somehow survive on its just pure ability to be a camp horrible show that's so horrible it's funny. Like, I don't know, maybe the Yumiko actress being insane is actually going to clinch it on this one. But then again, look at all these minor characters being butchered, so I don't know. Like, I want to say if this one squeaks by, it's only squeaking by because Yumiko will fucking deliver it. But the early polling on the show seems that 70% of the internet thinks the show is a straight out the door failure. So maybe this is the next Netboy B-Flicks. I think I'm willing to give it a curiosity watch if it does manage to stick the landing and depict Yumiko as an absolutely unhinged female pervert without it being camp, because that is really the show's defining feature. But I gotta wonder though, like, I thought there was no way they were going to adapt it like this when the Japanese version had already adapted it well enough. I thought at least if we were getting the all black version, that would be different enough to justify a second adaptation. But no, this is just the same exact story again with slightly worse live action actors. So I don't know what to think about this one, you guys. Did you laugh? Did you think it was funny? Look, don't make me laugh at this. I can't. Leave a comment. I'm walking away now. Good night.